to Singing with Confidence. My name is Trish and I will be your singing teacher. Today I am talking about something a little different. I'm moving away from singing technique and I want to talk to you about life as a production cast member on a cruise ship. So I have done 4 contracts on cruise ships as a production cast member, as a singer, and I have worked for 3 different companies on those 4 contracts. So today I thought I would give you a rundown of what to expect leading up to boarding the ship. So let's go into it. Let's start at the very beginning. Auditions. So most cruise companies, in fact, I think all cruise companies will put out audition notices on their websites and Facebook groups and other websites that advertise auditions. And they would usually have what's called open and closed auditions. Open auditions means that anyone can turn up and audition, and closed auditions is when you have an agent and the company goes through your agent to invite you to audition. I have done both open and closed, so I will give you a little insight on both of them. Let's start with the open call. So an open call is a very long day. I'm going to warn you, it's a very long day. Cruise open calls tend to attract a lot of people, especially if you're in a really big city. So I did most of my auditioning in London, and every open call I went to always had a ton of people there. So you would be in a waiting room with singers and dancers. So how it would go, you'd go in, you would give your name and hand over your CV and a photo. So make sure that you have a nice headshot. It doesn't necessarily have to be professional, but if you can get a professional one, that is great. So you hand over your CV and your headshot, and then you'll be given a form you most likely be given a form to fill out. And you'll fill it out and you'll get a number and you'll have to wait. And you might be told around about when you'll be auditioning, but most of the time you just have to wait around until your number. You usually get about 5 minutes in the room. So again, it depends on how many people. You might have to wait an hour, 2 hours. You might be at the other end of the day. Most people for open auditions turn up really early in the morning. At least 2 to 3 hours before the call time, so that they can get a spot early in the day and guarantee that they'll get seen that day. So if you're really super keen, try and get there early so you can get in line to be seen, and don't be surprised if there's already well over 100 people there. So what would happen when you get called, your number gets called, you would go into the audition room, and as a singer, you would most likely be asked to sing first. So you take in a piece that you know really well, make sure you have really clearly marked sheet music. So you take in that piece, give it to the pianist. It's usually 16 bars. That's plenty enough for them to know whether they want to see more of you. And then sometimes once you've sung, they'll say thank you, wait outside and we'll let you know. Sometimes they'll just say thank you, that's all we want to see from you today. And when you hear thank you, that's all we want to see from you today, that's usually thanks but no thanks. We're not interested in seeing any more of you. But they may ask you to wait outside, or they may say thank you, we'll let you know later on today whether you'll get a call back. So whether you're waiting outside or waiting to get a call, if you get a call back, you will get an actual assigned time slot, and then you will then join all the others who had closed calls. So yes, there is a lot of waiting around with an open call, a lot of waiting around. So just be prepared for anything. Every audition is different. Be prepared to sing and dance, or at least move. So make sure that you have a change of clothes that you can move in. Take maybe 2 songs in with you, because they may say, do you have another piece that you can perform for us? and be prepared to have a lot of material thrown at you. Some companies, like for instance Royal Caribbean, they also like you to prepare material that is provided on their website. So you might get asked to do that in your initial audition. It's not likely, but you might be asked. So make sure that you have looked at that material as well if the audition notice says so. Okay, let's have a look at closed auditions. So closed auditions is when people are invited to audition, and that's usually you have an agent, and your agent puts you forward for an audition, and then the company comes back and says, yes, we want to see this person, this person, this person. So that's with a closed audition, you get allocated a slot for the first audition, which is nice. So there's not a lot of waiting around. You know exactly when your audition is. You turn up. I usually like to turn up maybe half an hour before, so I'm warm and I'm, I can control my nerves, and I actually make sure that I get there on time and find the place, because sometimes they're a little hidden. And then you go in at your time, and you go through the same steps within the audition room as those in an open court. You might get a little longer, but most of the time it's 5 minutes, and you take in one piece and you sing it, and then they say yes or no, usually there and then. Then you have callbacks. So some companies will do 2 or 3 callbacks, some will just do one, and sort of have dance and singing callbacks combined into the one, and then make a decision whether you're going to be hired or not from there. So I've done both. I've had auditions where the first callback is dance, and if you get through the dance or movement, you go through and you do a final singing. Or I've also had, here is a ton of material, go learn it, and we will call you back for singing, and then we'll do some dance as well. So again, be prepared for anything. Every company works different. Every company is looking for something different. So you might be a perfect fit for one company and not for another. So just be very aware. So that's the audition process. So as I say, I've auditioned for three different companies, and every single one of them is different. So there isn't one that is the same. So just be prepared to do anything. Be flexible. The main thing: be smiley, happy, polite. Be really, really polite and friendly to the people running the admin outside, because they usually will be friendly with the audition panel, and they might say that person was really rude to me, or that person was super lovely and seemed like a really good personality and really good fit for the company. So just always be on your best behavior, whether you think you have eyes on you or not. One last thing about auditioning is make sure that you wear appropriate clothing. I like to just go in something quite classic, like a black skirt and a black top or a black dress. I don't tend to dress in a character kind of way. I'll wear really simple makeup that really you're able to see my features quite well. And then I will wear something on. I will wear the clothing that kind of shows my figure, because they need to know what kind of body type you are, so they know what costumes would best fit you, what characters would best fit you. So just make sure you feel really good in your outfit of choice, and that it kind of is showing what your figure is, but it's not revealing too much. So yeah, be modest, but classy. The last way cruise companies audition that I didn't mention before is online. Some allow you to submit video submissions if you cannot get to one of their physical places. And I think this will become more and more a way that they do things as we progress. So you perform all the material and then you send off your video. Video submissions are really common in performing in the industry, so they are nothing to turn your nose over and be scared about. You perform all of the material and then you send it all off, and they see if they want to see more or if they want to hire you. When you're doing video submissions, make sure that you have a blank wall behind you and that you are showing at least your torso up. And again, minimal makeup, and just give it your best shot. It's better to just not edit it really heavily, but try and take first or second takes of things. So you get through callbacks, you finish all the callback auditions, and you might be waiting a little while to find out whether they would like to hire you or not. And being hired doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get a shift straight away. They might say, awesome, we love you, you're on our books, which means they want to hire you, but they don't have a place for you right now. So you could be waiting a little longer. But most of the time, in my experience, I've either been auditioning for a specific ship, so I know that I'll be going on that ship if I get the job, or I've been offered a position on a ship straight away. So you could be waiting for a month or two to hear. Bear in mind, when a lot of these companies audition, they're doing like world tour auditioning. So they'll be doing at least 20 to 30 locations. And so that takes a while to go through all the people that they've called back and to see if A, they want them, and B, if there is a place for them. So in creating casts takes a while to find the right fit, and so you could be waiting a little bit. But if you haven't heard by like 2 or 3 months later, I think it's generally considered that you weren't lucky that time. Having said that, I have had an email from a company, like I think it was 8 to 9 months after I auditioned for them, going, hey, you're on our books, are you interested in the contract? I'm like, I didn't even know I was on your books. It's 9 months later and no, I'm not available. So yeah, just be wary. You could be waiting a long time, but one thing that they don't tend to tell you is if you don't get on their books, they're probably not going to call. So don't be disheartened if you don't hear back. I know that's a really easy thing to say, but half the job of being a singer or being a performer, dancer, actor is dealing with rejection. So you're not gonna get every single job you go up for. There have been some jobs that I really wanted and really thought that I stood a good chance and didn't get, and was really gutted. So learning to deal with the disappointment is part of the job, and it's really important that you find a way of coping when you don't get it. Okay, after that, let's assume you did get the job, and now you are preparing to go to rehearsals. So rehearsals, depending on the company, could take place anywhere. So I've rehearsed in Scarborough, I've rehearsed in Florida, and I've rehearsed in Miami, I should say, and LA. But I know that there is places in Australia, there's other places in London, it depends on the company and where their home is. So you could be going internationally, you could be staying in the same country. So there are things that you will need to do, assuming you are a new hire, so that means this is the first time working for a company, maybe first time ever cruising or working on a cruise ship. So there are a few things that you will have to do. You will have to sort out any visas. If you are not an American citizen, you have to have a visa that tells you can legally work in American waters, so it's a maritime visa. most companies will insist you get this, whether you're going to American waters or not. This visa is it lasts for a few years, so it could very easily cover you through 2 or 3 contracts, as my visas have done. So that takes a while. So that is one of the first things that you need to do when you get the all-go for your contract, is you need to get on and get that visa, because you have to go to the US Embassy in your country and do it all there, and the process can take a month or so. But once you have it for a few years. Then the next thing that you need to really quickly get on is your medical. So when you join a ship for the first time, you have to get a full medical. It can be pricey, just so you're aware. It can be a bit pricey. I think I've paid upwards of £350 for a medical. So it hurts a little bit when you're paying for it, but it's a full medical. And be very aware that there is, your company will have a list of approved doctors in your country that can do it, and that one of those doctors might not be in your city. So your local GP might not be approved to give this maritime medical. So that's another thing to be aware of. So you could get this medical done by your GP, but it could be rendered invalid by the company. So it's best to go to their approved doctors to do it. And the medical is full. It is absolutely full. You get x-rays, you get blood work, you have urine samples, they test everything, your heart, your fitness. So anything and everything that you imagine that they would test. They need to make sure that there isn't going to be no major medical issues with you. And if there is, you have to have a lot of other documentation from your GP to say why you have certain medications. For instance, when I joined my last contract, I was on some pain medication for my back because I'd sprained my back, and I didn't need the medication every day, but it was something that I had sort of once or twice a week. So I needed to have that with me, and so I needed medical proof that I was allowed and needed that medication. So that was another added cost, because you have to pay for that letter from your doctor, most likely. The good news is about medicals is most companies will reimburse you, but it is a lot of upfront cost. And some companies that I've worked for will actually pay for your medical. So again, that's something that's different, but most of the time you will either have it paid for or get that money back. The last thing about preparing for rehearsal before you leave is making sure that you have done any trainings that they want you to do. Some companies want you to do at least 1 or 2 trainings before you leave, so they might be online. They could be in person as well. I do know of companies that do like to have an in-person training before you leave for the ship or before you leave for rehearsal. So just be aware of that. Of course, you will get a massive stack of paper, of paperwork to sign, of things that you need to do in order to be allowed to board the ship. So this, again, it's different for every company, but just be aware that those are things that might have to happen. So the major things that you need to prepare for is need to prepare before you go is your visa, not just your US visa actually. You might need other visas. For instance, if you're going through China, you'll definitely need a visa if you're not a Chinese citizen. Your medical, and then any trainings that you have. And then also you have your other things to prepare for, like clothing and stuff. But you will get a rundown of what is appropriate to wear on the ship. And if not, try and get in touch with some of your fellow cast members who have worked for the company before, so you can get an idea of dress code. Dress code is really important as a crew member on ship, and I will go into that in further detail in another video. Rehearsals. Rehearsals are my favorite, absolute favorite time. So again, depending on the company, you might be in rehearsal for 4 weeks to 2 months. So, and again, depending on the company, you might be rehearsing 7 shows, 2 shows, 4 shows, 5 shows. It depends on the company, and also depends on the cruises you're doing. If you're doing majority 7-day cruises, you'll probably only be doing 3 or 4 shows. So it depends, but just be aware you're going to have a lot of material thrown at you. Rehearsals are most likely not going to be in your city unless you live in like LA or Miami or New York, or London, wherever. You probably would have to travel. I have, usually you work Monday to Saturday, and they are full days, and you're expected to be there all the time, especially if you are doing production shows, which are usually jukebox shows. If you are doing a musical like what Royal Caribbean does with Grease and Mamma Mia, Cats and that, you might get days off where other cast members have to be in because you're not in a particular scene that they're working in or working on, or a dance or whatever. So it depends on what type of shows you're doing, but usually if you are doing production shows where you have 7, 8 dancers, 4 singers, you are usually in every single day, and you are expected to be in the rehearsal room focused, even if you're not even if you're not on the floor rehearsing a number. You are either in a vocal studio warming up or practicing your music, or you are watching side stage. It's long, hard days, and usually you only get the 1 day off, Sunday. Again, it's different for every single cruise company, but for the most part, that's how my experiences have gone. One thing I will mention, that I didn't mention earlier, is some cruise companies, they get other production companies to cast and rehearse and create shows, and then those will come to the ship that the cruise company owns. And then other companies are what's called in-house. So the cruise company creates, rehearses, and casts the shows. So you might be working with a production company, you might be working with a cruise ship company directly. So again, depends. So then that's going to differ as well with how they run their rehearsal rooms. Usually you have 2, maybe 3 people in the room, so 2 of them will be running the choreography and staging, and then the one other person will be directing the music. Sometimes you have more, sometimes you have less. Again, depends on the company. But rehearsals are so fun. I love them. It's you're getting to know your cast, you're really getting to know the shows. They are stressful, especially if there is an element that you're not good at. Like, I'm not a strong dancer, so I always find that kind of stressful, but I do love the rehearsal process. So I really embrace it. Embrace the freedom while you have it, because once you get on the ship, you will find that you don't have the freedoms that you did while you were in rehearsals or while you were on land. Enjoy it. It is a glorious time. It is my favorite part of the contract. And the last thing I want to touch on is shows. So I did really talk very briefly about the shows. So the companies that I worked for, the first one, we did 3 production shows. So these are shows that lasted 40 to 45 minutes, and they were a mixture of songs that all fit one theme, and they're popular songs, and then, or music theatre as well. And then we had a welcome aboard show, and then we also had a theme night. So that was one contract. So that was 5 shows that we were learning in total. And then the my middle two contracts, I worked for another company, and we did 7 shows. So we had 5 production shows, which were 40 minutes each, a mixture of pop songs and music theatre songs that all fit around a theme. And then we had a welcome aboard show, and then we had a audience, a passenger interaction show. So that was fun. And then that was my busiest contracts, but I loved them so much, and I loved the shows so much. And then my last contract that I did, we did 2 shows, and then I had my own set as well, that I could choose whatever songs I wanted to do. So we did 2 big shows, which were much longer. So we were able to. So we worked for 2 months on both those shows. And then the dancers had another show that they did, but the singers were not involved in it. So again, yeah, every cruise company is different in how they structure their shows. Every ship is different on how they structure their cruises. But just be prepared for anything. Just be prepared to be flexible. It really helps to be flexible, and I really had to learn that quickly. So I hope you got something out of that. And if you are preparing to audition for a cruise company, I hope that you have every success. And I want to thank you so much for joining me today, and I will see you again soon.